We're taught that love means staying close, that if you care enough, explain enough, stay long enough, he'll realize your worth. But sometimes closeness doesn't create connection, it creates complacency. She texts to check in, he replies hours later. She explains what hurt, he calls her too emotional. She gives, softens, overextends, and wonders why she still feels so alone. The harder she tries to be chosen, the easier it is for him to take her presence for granted. Not because he's heartless, but because emotional overfunctioning rewrites the story. Suddenly, her love isn't seen as a gift. It's seen as a guarantee. Until one day, she detaches, not with rage, not with revenge, just silence, clarity, stillness. And that's when something shifts, not just in him, but in her. Who are you when you stop proving you're worthy of staying? You're never too much. You were just too available to someone who stopped listening. Respect begins the moment you stop giving yourself away just to be kept. When a woman stays emotionally available to someone who doesn't meet her halfway, what often follows isn't peace, it's burnout. She keeps showing up, keeps initiating conversation, keeps offering chances, but what she doesn't see is how her efforts, sincere, heartfelt, can start to feel like noise to someone emotionally flooded. Emotional flooding happens when the nervous system perceives connection as pressure. His silence may not always be cruelty. It can be his inability to process intimacy. But instead of pausing, she pushes harder, thinking more love will fix the gap. That's when he pulls further away, and she feels even more unworthy. A high insight one. The more she tries to repair, the more he feels overwhelmed. Her healing becomes his heat, and that heat makes him retreat. This isn't about her being too much. It's about the system between them being out of sync. Aha, insight two. A man doesn't learn to value your presence through your constant giving. He learns it when your absence invites him to examine the void he helped create. Let's look at bids for connection. Those small moments when you reach out. A text, a touch, a sigh. Gottman found that couples who turn toward those bids build intimacy. But when your bids are constantly ignored, over time, your nervous system learns to equate love with rejection. Here's the loop. She sends a message, he gives a cold reply. She tries harder, over-explains, he withdraws more, she feels invisible, she panics and gives even more. He shuts down. Now we're in the danger zone. The four horsemen begin to show up, especially contempt, the quiet killer of relationships, not just from him, but from herself. She starts resenting herself for staying, for tolerating, for proving. Reframed this pattern. It's not that you were too sensitive or too needy. It's that you were emotionally outnumbered. You were trying to carry the connection alone. When you consciously detach, you're not ghosting or punishing. You're regulating. You're stepping back to self-soothe, to listen to the storm inside you and let it calm before re-engaging. That silence, it's not a weapon, it's a boundary. A signal that you're no longer available for emotional neglect, even your own. When you stop chasing, you don't lose them. You give them a chance to feel your absence, and you give yourself a chance to feel your own presence again. She used to count the minutes between his replies, not out of obsession, out of hope. Hope that this time he'd respond like he used to, with softness, with effort, with something that felt like he still cared. Her name was Layla, and for months, she carried the weight of two hearts, hers and the one he kept pulling away. She planned their weekends, she sent thoughtful texts, she excused his silence as just stress. She convinced herself that if she loved him just right, he'd come back. But slowly, her world shrank. Her laughter got quieter, her shoulders slumped a little more each time he rolled his eyes or said, "You're overthinking." Still, she tried, explained again, sent long paragraphs he barely read, waited for calls that never came. One night, she sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, rereading the message she was about to send. "Can we please talk? I just need to understand." She didn't send it. She stared at it, Back's face, closed the app, put the phone face down. The silence in the room was so thick it almost echoed. That's when she heard it, a quiet voice inside her, so soft it almost didn't register. "This isn't love, this is survival." That whisper was her turning point. The next morning, she didn't send a check-in text. She didn't watch his story. She made coffee and took it to the balcony, barefoot, letting the sunlight touch her skin like it was trying to remind her, "You're still here." Later that week, he noticed, he messaged, "Everything okay?" But by then, something in her had changed. She no longer needed his attention to feel real. She didn't want revenge, she wanted peace. And for the first time in a long time, she had it. Her realization. He was never asking for too much, he was just asking the wrong person to give what he never grew enough to offer. Closure. She didn't walk away to teach him a lesson, she walked away because she finally learned hers. Let's talk about what to do when you feel like you're giving everything and getting almost nothing back. That moment when you're caught between wanting to stay connected and needing to protect your peace. You don't need to shut down, disappear, or play games. What you need is ritual, boundaries that feel like self-respect, not punishment. Here are 4 tools, emotionally intelligent, grounded in research, and deeply human, to help you detach with dignity and reconnect with yourself. The next time he says something dismissive, goes silent, or sends a text that stings, stop. Don't reply. Set a timer for 60 seconds and breathe. Let your nervous system register that you are safe, even in silence. According to Gottman's research, pausing interrupts emotional flooding and allows space for self-regulation. This small delay protects your dignity and prevents reactivity from hijacking your voice. When you're triggered, say the emotion out loud, even if it's just to yourself. "I feel dismissed. I feel invisible." Labeling the feeling helps your brain move from survival to reflection. Gottman calls this process attuning, staying emotionally present with yourself before demanding it from someone else. By naming the feeling, you give it structure and power. Softens. Each night, light a candle, sit in front of a mirror, and write one line. What did I give today that I didn't receive in return? Let your own words reflect the emotional imbalance you've been tolerating. Over time, you'll start noticing patterns, how often you explain yourself, soften your tone, justify his actions. This ritual doesn't shame you, it frees you. It brings your emotional labor into the light where you can finally honor it. Every time you feel triggered, ignored, dismissed, forgotten, offer yourself 3 validations before you respond to him. I'm allowed to need clarity. Silence doesn't mean I'm unworthy. I don't have to chase to be valuable. This method rewires your inner voice from one of abandonment to one of self-trust, and Gottman's studies show that people who speak to themselves with compassion are less reactive and more respected in relationships. These aren't just practices, they're proof that peace isn't something he gives you, it's something you learn to protect, one breath, one pause, one boundary at a time. You've waited for him to notice, to change. To wake up one morning and say, I finally see you. I finally get it. But the truth is, you've been the only one awake for a long time, carrying the weight of two people's effort, explaining what shouldn't need explaining, loving louder every time he pulled away. You're not broken. You're just tired. And that exhaustion, that ache in your chest that says, maybe I'm just too much. Mm-hmm. That's not your flaw. It's your truth trying to be heard through all the noise you've been taught to ignore. There comes a moment, quiet, sacred, where she realizes she doesn't have to keep proving she's enough to someone who keeps acting like she's optional. What if you weren't too much, just unprotected? And when you detach, not with anger, but with clarity, something extraordinary happens. You don't lose your heart, you find it. Because silence isn't what breaks the relationship. It's what finally reveals the imbalance. Let him wonder where your energy went. Let him feel the pause that used to be filled by your explaining, softening, fixing. That pause, that's your healing. That's your new language, one that doesn't need volume to be understood. You're not walking away from him. You're walking back to the version of you that never needed to beg for love in the first place. He once mistook your detachment for punishment. Now he realizes it was peace returning to its rightful owner. And that opening belief that being silent means being unloved, let's rewrite it. You thought your silence would push him away, but maybe it's what finally brought you home. You are no longer the woman who explains her worth. You are the woman who embodies it. Stillness isn't the end of connection, it's the beginning of self-respect. You were taught that staying close would keep the love alive, that if you just held on tighter, softened more, gave without pause, he'd finally see you. But now, with quiet in your bones and peace in your breath, you know something deeper. Closeness without reciprocity isn't connection. It's self-abandonment. And the moment you detach, not out of spite, but out of wisdom, you didn't become cold. You became clear. Now, you thought your silence would create distance, but it created dignity. You are no longer the woman who waits to be chosen. You are the woman who chooses herself first, fully and without apology. Detachment isn't the end of love, it's the beginning of being loved right.